Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to a Rescue World podcast, and we're so excited to have you join us. If you're out there, you've been tuning in, go ahead and like, subscribe, share. We want you to be a part of these conversations. We're having guests all this season as we are leaning into our secret sauce here at Rescue a Generation. And all that means is we've created a formula by which we've seen our organization be really effective when it comes to working with students. That formula in a nutshell is great communication leads to great conversations, which then leads to trust, which then leads to relational equity, which then leads to results. And so today we're going to zoom into a conversation about conversations. And how do we do that really well? How do we listen? How do we lean in? How do we create space for others to talk back to us? And we have, I would say, an expert in conversations with us today, none other than Nathan Neighbors. Hey, thanks for being here, man. So excited. Nathan is a coach, a trainer, a pastor, a leader. A little bit of just everything. And you've been involved with us for 3 years now,
about
right?
3 years.
And man, he came in 3 years ago and shook things up for Rescue Generation. And we're still shaking. You know,
shaking it all up. You got to keep shaking.
Got to keep shaking. And but really grateful for you, for your wife Marla, and our friendship. Yeah. And thanks for being here.
It's been good. I'm excited to be here, man.
Yeah, cool. Well, let's just start. Tell us a little bit about how you got into the coaching and training space.
Yeah.
Because I think that's part of what I want to lean into today is just like the impact that's created around conversations that you've been able to create.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I was invited to go to a training, which you and many of your staff have been through, which is now called Awaken, about 16 years ago. And I'd been to every conference, workshop, teaching, and most workshops that you go to are an expert that just delivers really awesome information.
Just talking at you.
Yeah. Here's the 10 points to being a great youth pastor. Here's the 9 points to being growing your church, etc. And I said, don't need it. I've heard all the experts, and I decided to go to this training, and it was unlike anything I had ever been through, where they weren't talking at me or just dumping information. They were diving into my life, which was absolutely horrifying.
Literally.
And so life-giving all at the same time.
Yeah.
Like I had never been seen before like that, which was, again, exhilarating and horrifying all at the same time. And I walked away from those 4 days like a brand new person. I was alive. I felt like all the limitations that were on me were gone, and I was clear about what I was stepping into. And I thought two things. I thought, one, if the church looked like this, people would be knocking down the doors to get in.
Agreed.
The secular world has realized that, and they're making billions of dollars on it. And the church, which actually is I think the greatest context for having this happen. I thought, man, if this could happen here, we could transform everything. And I just thought, man, I want to be a part of contributing to other people's lives in this same way. And so since then, I just threw myself in and have had the privilege of training thousands of people over the last 16 years, along with Gap Community and Jean Marie Jobs and our team there at Gap Community. So it's been amazing.
Yeah, it's great, man. Thanks for that. And so I'm thinking about the amount of youth workers that we've connected with, that we know, that spend so much time and energy studying, going to seminary, learning how to exegete and eisegete, and learning how to do all the things for the sake of being a great communicator of the gospel, right? And being able to articulate really clearly to whoever their audience is. And I feel like there's this I don't want to say overemphasis, but I would say, I think there's this overemphasis on being a great communicator, and this super underemphasis on having great, powerful conversations.
Absolutely.
I'm going to make a pretty broad assumption that you probably were in that boat at some point as well, right?
100%.
Me too. So I was
super talented. That was actually one of the things that scared me, was my talent was taking me to places that I knew would either destroy me or would destroy other people because my character couldn't handle it.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. And I was like, I'm going to hit a level of success that's going to be great.
Yep.
And I'm going to hit a wall that's
Yeah.
either going to hurt me or hurt other people.
Sheesh, that's
Yeah.
strong. Yeah, I've been there,
Yeah.
done that, hit plenty of walls in the process. How do you make the shift? How do you go from like the emphasis of communication, like
Yeah.
this is all up on my time and energy
Yep.
to get the right message, the right points, the right whatever,
Yeah.
into leaning in and learning how to have really powerful, transforming conversations with people?
Yeah. Well, I think the missing ingredient oftentimes in that is character. And when we talk about character in the youth ministry world or in the, faith world, we're oftentimes talking about like, these big conversations around sin or around like who I am in secret is who I am in public, all those different things. I think character has a lot to do with like the texture of your soul, like your ability to stand up in really difficult situations. And so I think one of the greatest questions you can ask yourself as a youth leader or youth worker is, what are the conversations that I'm most afraid of? What are the conversations that I'm like, I don't want to have that conversation with my students, with my leaders, with my higher ups, with my peers, with myself, with my spouse?
Yeah.
What are those conversations that my character right now, I don't see a way for it to hold?
Okay.
Like, does that make sense?
Yeah. So let me correlate. Like almost like that, the fear of having that particular conversation is revealing something about my character.
Yeah. Like I don't trust that this is going to turn out, or I don't trust them, or I don't trust myself, or I don't trust God. And so my character, there's no place to contain the conversation. And so I just don't have it because I don't actually trust that it's going to turn out.
Wow. And if I'm listening to that and I'm like, oh shoot, I don't have no character right now. like I'm afraid to have these conversations.
Yeah.
What do I do with that? Like how do I respond to that statement?
Well, I think, when people start getting into our work, sometimes they just think they need to go start having fierce conversations for the sake of having fierce conversations.
I'm guilty of that too.
They start blowing people out of the water, right? So I think, and this is part of what you guys do so well at RAG and what we do at Gap Community is we start with vision. Like, what's my vision? I think the question that a leader has to ask themselves of who am I committed to be as a leader?
Yeah.
Like, I am committed to create and be a person of vulnerability, of trust, of openness, of honesty, of integrity, whatever that looks like. And then what conversations do I get to start working out with based on that vision? So I think in the same way, if you haven't been to the gym in a long time and you start going back to the gym, you're not going to go to the rack and just put on 300 pounds of weight and just start lifting, right? You're gonna start with like, hey, what are some of the conversations that I can start having right away that feel like easy wins, or like, hey, I've been avoiding having this conversation. Let me start picking up the weights little by little. Yeah. And so it might start with, hey, I'm going to have this conversation with a student that feels a little risky, about asking them about some of the choices that they're making, or about their home life, or with this volunteer that's flaky and not showing up on time, and to just start lifting the weights little by little. It's like building a muscle. I think character in the same way you just build your muscle with that. Yeah,
I love that. So number one, we need to have character, enough to be willing to sustain some of these conversations that we're having. And I just love that correlation that, man, I wonder if you're avoiding conversations, if that was directly telling about your character, what could that be telling? And that'd be a fun question to explore.
It would be, yeah. I think if you just like wrote down, here's all the conversations that I'm afraid to have, or I'm unwilling to have, or if I had them, I think my whole world would fall apart. I might get fired. I might get dismissed. I might look stupid, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And then just ask yourself, I wonder what the common theme is in these. Like, is it about me? Is it about other people? Is it my just trust in God? There's probably a pattern that will emerge.
Yeah. Okay. So once I have the character conversation in, and then I'm imagining conversations are usually with another person. Yeah. Maybe people talk to trees. But I don't know how that plays out.
We live in 2025.
Right? We do. So some stuff happening out there. But in conversations with another person, how do you generate some real like synergy and momentum from a conversation? Because I've worked with students where I'm like, you're just not getting it. What the heck is happening here? And what can people do in order to just create that, like, hey, we're on the same page. We're going to go and do this together, or we're going to make some changes or moves or whatever. Yeah.
Well, I think like when I think back to my days working with students is oftentimes I would come into a relationship with a student with an agenda for them. Like they need to be this person or as a youth pastor, you look at a student, you're like, here's all the things that's not working in their life. I need to address this with their home life. I need to address it with the school. And you come up with all this whole list of things that need to get fixed in them. No one enjoys being in a conversation where they need to get fixed. You know,
people are not projects.
No, they're not. And people feel that, you know, when, I mean, I've been on the receiving end of conversations where people come in like, let me tell you everything that's wrong with your life and who I want you to be, right? And so I think starting again from the space of, hey, what's your vision? Like what's up? What's next for you? Like, what are you excited about? What if, like, get people dreaming about what's possible? And the difficult conversations will emerge from that.
It's good.
So that I can lay down my agenda and I can be like, oh, got it. Now I'm on your agenda over here. I'm working with your vision. So like you like even with a student where if it's something as simple as like, hey, I want to improve my athletics, or I want to, you know, get a girlfriend, or I want to get a job, right? That will let me know, oh, now there's a container for all these difficult conversations to point back to this thing they said.
This is what you want. This is where you want to go.
How is this?
That's gold. That's gold. Yeah, I've often said, as of recently, probably since Gap, that like, I feel like we've been irresponsible with like trying to push our vision on people.
Totally.
Especially in the church. It's like I have a vision for everybody around me. And it's funny because I actually struggle with my own vision for myself. But like I'm very clear about what I want them to do. You know, like,
isn't that funny?
It's hilarious. But like, and like, man, how do I actually get them to like know their vision, own their vision, and not make it mine for them? Now, I'm going to. I know this personally by experience, but that takes a level of discipline. To be able to like put up your judgments and your own thoughts and perceptions of what they could or should or how in the world. I think about when I was actual youth pastor. I think about working with students that rough situations, and I'm like, I know what's best for you. And then I didn't enroll them in any of their own vision. I was just, I know this for you. What's the discipline that it takes, and how do you do that well where I can suspend my own judgments towards you long enough to actually like pay attention to what you want to accomplish in life?
I think there's a discipline of trusting that God is actually speaking to that student, and that God is actually like in the process of inviting them into a bigger life.
Oh, so you mean I'm not the hero? I'm not the savior here.
Wow, right? And so but I think that we come in with, hey, I know what's best for you.
Absolutely.
Versus, hey, what's God up to in your life? Now, I will say this specifically with Gen Z and Gen Alpha that are coming up, is their dreaming muscle is oftentimes really atrophied. It's weak, you know, and so inviting them into like a bigger dream for themselves can be work, you know, but that is the work of like, hey, if you could have anything, what would you have with your friends? If you could have anything with your family, like let's dream big, right? With that. But I think recognizing like God's already at work with this student, with this person. I just get to go discover it. And so I'm mining that out, not bringing it to them. Right?
I love that, because just the notion that God is already working what he's doing in their own life, it helps me approach them drastically different than as if I am the one. And again, like I've been there, I've done that, where I was the one, and because I was the one when I was no longer there, like they're no longer connected with God because I put myself in his position to them. And so it's just a dangerous game to play.
And it's exhausting too. If I'm the one who constantly has to like motivate and move and like, hey, let me keep telling you what you should do and who you should be and what should your family look like and what should your grades look like, that's a lot of work, right?
I mean, I'm more out thinking about it right now. So, oh man, I love that. It's so good already. All right, so getting them clear on what it is that they're up to. What do they want? What happens when you reach, and you referenced this a little bit with Gen Z and Gen Alpha, what happens when you reach a really apathetic kid? Who's just like, I don't know. Nah, I'm good. I don't want nothing. Like how would you approach a conversation with a kid like that that's already closed off, already shut down, not interested in what you're saying, and then they have no motivation really in life, period. How do you approach a conversation like that?
You know, Dallas Willard oftentimes said that transformation is time and repetition. And so I think this is part of the character conversation, is the willingness to sit in it with the student, you know,
so good.
We want to like, hey, I'm gonna have this conversation. It's going to go amazing over a Starbucks visit for 20 minutes, and we're going to solve all the world's problems, right? And sometimes it's just sitting in it with a kid or with a student, and it's like, hey, this isn't on my timeline right now, with that. I also think that apathy is oftentimes a product of pain and grief, and so I know in my life, when I've grown apathetic, it's like, this is too painful. I don't want to touch that again. And so, like, being willing to touch the pain with a kid too, that's where the character comes in too, right? Like the willingness to I'm gonna have these like painful conversations with a student about what's going on at home, about what you're disappointed with, about what's going on in your life that hurts, and be willing to sit in the grief and the pain with them for a bit. That's some discipline right there.
Yeah. Now, what I've learned from you over the last several years is that I actually can't touch in them what I'm not willing to touch in me.
Absolutely.
And we've seen that be, I would say, categorically true across the board here at RAG. I have found that the people that struggle the most here in the work that we do are the people that have been unwilling to explore their own pain and grief and process and what's happening and give language to it. And so for the youth worker out there that's not acquainted with their own grief and doesn't they're Pollyanna is what comes to my brain. Everything's good.
It's amazing hype. The hype man.
How do you start that process? Of oh man, actually this is scary. I need to look here first. What's the beginning steps of that process?
Well, one of the things that we oftentimes talk about at Gap Community is the power of ministering from the wound, and I think that this is where youth ministry falls short, and I think this is why when students get out into the quote-unquote real world, they lose their faith, because most of youth ministry is just like, everything's awesome. If you follow Jesus, your life's going to be incredible. If you don't have sex, you're going to have this amazing marriage. If you don't do drugs, your whole life's going to come together. All these promises that sometimes don't actually turn out to be true.
Right, that
part. And so I think the wound is actually one of our greatest resources, and recognizing that is such a gift to give to other people, and it actually helps us to live in the real world, right, with that. And so the flip, I'm not saying on the flip side, just live in like an Eeyore, like life's awful and I'm so pain and we need to talk about our dysfunction. And I think that it can go to the flip side where we're always talking about anxiety and depression and social anxiety, all the things. But if I'm unwilling to see where I'm in scarcity, where I am in disappointment. I mean, I talk to so many pastors who when we get underneath the surface, there's so much disappointment. Man, my youth ministry doesn't look the way I wanted it to, and man, my marriage is not this amazing thing, and I'm having trouble with my senior leaders and all the different things that come with it. And if you can just get even in touch with that, hey, it's okay to be honest about what's going on in your life. There's such I'm able to then connect with students when they're in their own apathy or they're in their own struggle. I'm not going to give them follow Jesus and everything's going to be amazing. I'm going to be able to let's sit in your pain for a moment and let's figure out what's next, even in spite of that. You
were just talking. I was reminded of how Jesus modeled that with Thomas. Where I've said this before, but when you come back from the dead, I've always said I'm coming back in a glorified body. I'm not coming back with wounds and I'm having an 8-pack and maybe all a couple inches taller and I'm coming back But he shows up for Thomas, who's a doubter, and he says, "Hey, put your finger in." The wound in my hand, actually come touch this, feel this, and but there's this unspoken part of that if Jesus was still very much bleeding and pussing and he wouldn't have been able to touch it because it would have got contaminated. It would have been nasty. Don't do that.
Absolutely.
So there had to be a level of healing that took place, a level of processing that took place in order for Thomas to do that. And so one of the things that I often admonish youth workers on is don't bleed out on students. Yes, I want you to be acquainted with your pain and know what's what, but don't share with them what you haven't shared with a pastor or a leader or a counselor. Don't get out there and just vomit. And we've seen the damage done from people that do that. Maybe you could just speak a little bit to that, like what are the confines, the bounds that like, and how do I know if I'm ready to like let somebody into a space?
Yeah, well, I think that's a good distinction because I think there's a distinction between being in touch with your pain and using it as a resource, and then like vomiting your pain all over people.
Yeah, that's great.
Right, so I heal with the appropriate spaces. Like I have my own mentor, I have my own coach, I have my own people in my life that I'm like, these are my healing spaces. These are the spaces that I get to wrestle through and work through these areas. But here's the thing: is that I cannot see in someone else what I'm unwilling to touch in my own life.
Yeah,
so I think that's the purpose of getting in touch with it. So if a student is in apathy, and then I'm in apathy, and I'm not even aware of it. I'm not even realizing it.
Because you're just avoiding it altogether.
I'm just avoiding it. I'm going to go into hype mode, like, I just need to encourage the student, versus like, oh man, hey, I can see it. I can see it in you because I can see it in me. So I don't actually need to even talk about myself, but just the act of being in touch with my own pain allows me to see it, touch it, connect with it in others, and then I can be a resource for them rather than just, hey, get over it, or like knock it off, or whatever it may be.
Yeah. Can you maybe give a story like around like how you've seen this play out, and whether it be the coaching world or pastoring or whatever, but like, and you could go either like I missed it because I didn't like see it and I wasn't embraced here, or the other route of like, because I did the work, like maybe a story you have from your experience.
Yeah, well, I mean, I grew up a pastor's kid, and now I'm a pastor.
Okay.
And so one of the wounds that over the years has been lots of people that get really close and then leave, and that's been, I can tell you dozens of stories of that growing up, you know? So oftentimes my framework going into a relationship is it's just a matter of time before this person leaves. It's just a matter of time before this person betrays me, or they do something screwy and I don't get to see him again, And so one of the things that I noticed in my relationships was that I would keep a lot of distance between me and other people.
Okay.
So it was like I would get close, I would serve you, but you don't get to serve me.
That's good.
Right? and you're certainly not getting into my inner world, right? Yeah. And so it would create this distance in the relationship and actually produce the very thing that I said I didn't want, because people would be like, oh, I can't get close to Nathan. Yeah. So then they would leave, and it would be this perfect circular story, that I got to, it proved my story. Right. I proved myself right over there, right? Yeah. And then when I got into the coaching world and other people would talk about, hey, people might leave me, I'd be like, yeah, they're going to. They're probably going to, So maybe you should watch out. Or, intimacy is a scary thing. I related to intimacy and vulnerability like this is a liability, not an asset.
Wow.
Right? And so the moment I started getting in touch with my own pain, my own disappointment, my own level of betrayal. I remember one of my mentors, Jean Marie Jobs, who's also she's our president of Gap Community, she invited me hey, why don't you make a list of all the people who have left you, betrayed you, that you still have energy around? I did the list, and I had 144 names down.
Whoa.
Right? Just from childhood to today, Wow. So I was like, oh, this might be impacting how I relate to intimacy and vulnerability. Now, had you asked me before that, I would have never said I had a problem with intimacy or vulnerability. I'm like, look, that's what I do. I'm a pastor, right? But the moment that I was able to see that, heal that, even be with it, I was able to now relate to intimacy and vulnerability. Like, man, this is such a beautiful thing. And it's still with me. That tendency is still with me. Just the other day, Marla came in, and some good friends of ours, she's like, oh, he got this new job. It's awesome. It's in LA. And my first question was, are they moving? So she even noticed, she's like, I would have probably led with that if they were moving. So I noticed it in myself, and I was able to once again go, all right, Jesus, more opportunity for healing, more opportunity for releasing that.
Wow, so good. When you process that, how does that help you show up differently for the conversations that you're in? Like, what was the fruit of that on the backside as now you're coaching? Now you see people in this scarcity, people are going to leave me conversation. How do you get to show up for them then? Or what was maybe a story even, but like, how have you shown up? And only because I want the people that are listening to this to think like, yes, I need to do the work. But there's actually I would say like fruit or spoils on the other side of the work that we get to actually celebrate with and lean into. And so what's the other side of the work?
The other side of that is I can actually see it in other people now. before it never even showed up like a possibility.
Okay.
Right? I remember early on in my training days, we talk a lot about when someone notices like a belief that they're living in that's limiting. One of the things that we talk with them through is what are the payoffs that you get for that? What are the goodies that you get for living in like a limiting belief or like a space where vulnerability or intimacy is scary? I remember I was working with a participant one time, and under payoffs, I actually put intimacy as if it was like something that they like, this is a thing you're getting out of this, as if it was a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
And I realized how skewed my perspective was.
Yeah.
The moment that I transformed that belief in my own self, I was able to like see it, heal it.
Wow.
It was like, oh, no. Intimacy is a gift. And so before, when I was coaching people, working with people, there was a tinge of my coaching and my conversation that was like, yeah, you need to protect yourself. Go in, but don't give too much. Don't go too far. Like people are going to leave you, so be careful. And so I was able to see it, I was able to address it, and I was able to be with people in a way that really showed up with that.
That's great. And so I even in that, I hear like, man, how often do we even project our own dysfunctions, disbeliefs, narratives onto the people that we're in conversations with?
I can't transform something in someone else that I am unwilling to transform in myself, or that I'm unwilling to see in myself.
Yeah, I say that all the time. I think if we want to see students radically transformed, which we do here at Rescue Generation, then our team has to be extremely acquainted with our own transformation. Like, what am I transforming out of? What am I transforming into? Where am I at? Like, when was the last thing that God put his finger on in my life?
Totally.
That he wants to still heal that, still touch that. And I think sometimes in the Christian world, what we've done is we become married to this old story of transformation. I'm no longer on drugs. I'm no longer in a gang. I'm no longer that. It kind of omits you from embracing like a new story of transformation that God wants to like bring you into. And so I just believe that like wholeheartedly that we have to be willing to be transformed.
I know we're talking about the secret sauce. Oftentimes when people are in a training with us or being coached with us, they'll think like, they'll often say, man, you guys like are wizards. You can see into my soul, right?
I've experienced the wizard of Nathan.
And if you want to talk about the secret sauce, when I'm hearing something in someone else over there, like I'm like, oh man, they're in a scarcity conversation, or they're in a distrusting conversation, or they're in like a conversation around how God's not going to show up. The secret sauce is, as a coach, as a trainer, as a pastor, I immediately go to, how am I doing that exact same thing in my life? Not what's the Bible verse that they need to hear, not like what's the wisdom that I'm going to like spew on them, but I ask myself, where in my life am I doing that exact same thing, so I can speak from the heart and the wound, not just from like biblical knowledge. And then of course you bring in wisdom and the scriptures and stuff, but if I can't see it in my life, it's going to be very hard to touch it over there.
Wow, that's gold. I wanted to. There was a couple. Oh yeah, I want to kind of throw a fun question in here. When I went through Awaken, you were the trainer there, and I had two. I felt like I was in a boxing ring with you twice. You probably didn't experience it that way, but I did. I was like I was in there with him, and. The first one, so I want to ask, because you talked about being a wizard, and I thought, well, this would be a fun just to play with this a little bit. Like, the first one was the feedback circle. And so you're going around the room, you're getting a lot of feedback from a lot of people. I'll save the details, but like, you're getting feedback. I found myself getting really frustrated at the feedback that I was getting, because I'm vocal, I'm passionate, I'm a leader. And that was all I was hearing that day. You're vocal, passionate, you're a leader.
Like, I know all this stuff.
Like,
thank you for stating the obvious.
Exactly. Tell me something I don't know. And then you walked around the room, which, and by the way, you weren't in a circle giving feedback. You were just roaming and like doing your own thing. And then you stopped, and the piece of feedback you gave me, I will never forget it. And I felt like I got punched in my chest, but you said this, you said, I imagine you as somebody who settles, and you say, and you're operating at about 80% of your capacity, and you're okay with that because it looks like 100% to everybody else.
Sure.
Okay. You remember that at all?
I do.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Cool. And literally, and even when I tell people this story, and I'm sharing what you shared, initially they're not really reacting, and when I say that last part of and it looks like 100%, they're like, whoa,
Yeah.
What did you where'd that come from?
Yeah.
Would you perceive, because I do imagine conversations that are happening, there is a lot of perception that has to take place, and what you are experiencing, what you're seeing, and so I would just love to play with that conversation a little bit.
Well, we talk a lot about, and I know you talk a lot about this here at RAG too, is the power of what we call generous listening, which is paying attention to not just what's being said, but oftentimes when we talk about active listening, and people, in youth ministry, we talk about that. And it's usually I listen and I can parrot back what you said word for word, right? Which is great.
What I hear you say
what I hear you say is, that's annoying. Right? Generous listening does not just pay attention to what's being said, but it's paying attention to what's being said underneath what's being said.
Okay.
But it's also paying attention to what I'm saying about what's being said, right? I think that God's actually given us all of us, this unique ability to connect at such a deeper level where we can hear things in ourselves and know things in ourselves. Even when I went with a student, there's sometimes where it's like, man, you seem really sad, or man, you seem hurt right now, or you seem like there's something that you want to say that you're not saying, right? As youth workers, we've all had those moments where there's I have a spidey sense about this over here, right? Over there. And even at a neurological level, it's interesting because there's these things called mirror neurons that when you look at someone, your brain can actually start mirroring even micro expressions and eyes and the mouth of what that person is experiencing, going through. So we were actually made for empathy. We were made to connect in that way.
Wow.
And so part of that is, one, paying attention to your internal conversation. What am I seeing, or what do I sense over here?
Yeah.
And then be willing to test it verbally, right? So when I'm giving feedback, it's never here's the capital T truth about you. Great. It's not thus saith the Lord of Israel,
it felt like it.
But I think there is a space of hey, I'm going to put this out there. And if it lands, great. If it doesn't, great too. But testing that intuition, and that's where the character comes in, the ability to this feels risky to say this.
Yeah.
But I love you enough
so good.
To say this.
Yeah.
Right. And to just test the intuition, test the discernment.
Yeah.
And I think the more people do that, the more they'll either realize I'm way off, or they'll start honing it in.
Yeah.
Right, with that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so good. And testing the spidey senses, just what a powerful statement. Put that on a post. Test your spidey senses.
Yeah, I wish more people would, because I think they would go, wow, that's so powerful.
It's not accident. That's actually a reason I felt that way.
Yeah, if you could just pause in the conversation and go, man, I'm sensing this. Is that accurate? Is that not? Great. If it's not, move on.
Yeah.
If it is, awesome. Now we've uncovered something.
That's fire. Yeah. The next day you told me that I was like a Porsche and I was driving like a Honda. So, so that was fun. Two boxing rounds with Nathan Neighbors. Highly recommended. 10 out of 10.
There you go.
That's
Get in
the ring. Let's talk about listening a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I think in leadership, and there's this idea that I'm up here, they're down here.
Yeah.
I need to be the dispenser of all wisdom.
Yeah.
I need to give you the truth. I need to tell you what's what.
Yeah.
Where does listening come into play in conversations and leadership overall? I'm imagining there's probably leaders out there that are listening to this, and how do we listen in a way that's going to create powerful conversations?
Yeah, that's so good. I think listening's everything in the conversation. And really, I think that one of the most important questions to ask yourself as a leader is, what am I listening for? Which is a great conversation to just have with yourself as a leader. What am I listening for?
Okay.
So a lot of times leaders are listening for, how do I fix this? Right? How do I fix this person? How do I fix the problem?
Yeah.
That is certainly a way to listen.
It is a way, yeah.
Or they're listening. They're listening for, like, I already know this, or I'm proving this story right in the conversation, whatever it may be. And I would invite leaders to start from the perspective of, like, what am I listening for, and how do I listen to really connect with this person, their deepest longings, what's really going on over there, what's being said underneath what's being said.
Yeah.
So I can actually just connect with you over there. So then we can have this larger conversation about what's going on.
Yeah. Is there a practical thing that your everyday pastors or leaders could do that would help to grow their listening skills?
Yes. Start listening to your own internal conversation.
Okay.
Just notice what you're telling yourself
about what's
being said. If I tell leaders, if they would just be willing to do that, it would transform so much, because you'll start seeing patterns.
Okay.
So where do you find yourself in a conversation saying, I don't know what to do, let me just grab onto the nearest verse or wisdom or podcast that I heard? Where do you find yourself going like, oh, I got this, and you stop listening? Where do you listen to respond? Where do you find yourself like, I don't have the resource? Just notice what you're telling yourself about what's being said. It'll be a huge resource just to, like, journal about it, write it down, see patterns in it.
How do I do that and be present with the person? Because I can also imagine that could potentially get in the way of, like, now I'm caught up in my own head about what's being said, and I'm not fully like here with what's being actually said here.
Yeah, totally. I think early on it may be helpful just to do like a postmortem after the conversation. Like just listen and then just like think back, man, what was I thinking about during that conversation? Man, there I got stuck. I think in the same way that great athletes do a replay, a great athlete will watch the whole game back and go, oh man, I missed that shot. I rebounded there, whatever. In the same way, you can go back in the conversation and go, oh, I missed it there. I was scared there. I saw this come up for me here. You'll see patterns in there.
Okay. No, that's so good. When it comes to youth ministry today, we'd love to hear just your perspective on like what would it take for the youth workers out there to actually be effective and having better, I don't like the word better, more powerful, transformational conversations. What would it take for the youth workers?
Yeah. I think part of that is, one, recognizing that you're not the dispenser of wisdom and information. And we live in a world now where kids can get information on their phones. They can get any...
ChatGPT is way smarter than we are.
Yeah. So. And kids are looking at Chat. I mean, trust me, kids are actually asking ChatGPT for wisdom, and they can ask, what does the Bible say about this, et cetera, et cetera. I think one of the things that I'm noticing with young people today is they are desperate for someone to speak into their identity, and to pull out of them, not to inform them, but to pull out of them who they were created to be for the world, and to speak into that, to affirm that, to help them discover that. So if I see myself as I'm just partnering with God and helping this person discover their identity, and then I am going to have fierce, powerful, courageous conversations around where they're out of alignment with that, where they're not living into that, not to punish them. Because I think that's where we get like the frustration of like, why aren't you being who you're supposed to be, right? But
get it together.
Get it together, kid. But really, I get to stand with them in what that is. There's something that's so powerful, so beautiful. I've seen it time and time again where students like, wow, I know who I am called to be. And so when I'm working with a client or when I'm working with an individual, I don't look at them as who they are right now. I'm looking at them through the lens of who they are called to be and the vision that they're living in. And everything else that is out of alignment with that, it feels weird. It's like, wait, no, you're the kid who's powerful. You're the kid who's healed. You're the kid who's a leader. You're the kid who's like the creative genius behind all this. Why are you acting like that? That seems really out of character for who you're called to be.
Wow.
And so I get to speak from that future version of who they are and call them up into that.
That just took me to something we've experienced recently. Like, what happens when you're with somebody and their future version of themselves, from their perspective, is in some lofty fantasy world. Like how do you lean into a conversation Because the temptation is to want to knock them off their high horse.
Yeah,
like, you
totally.
know, like, let me just pull you down to size and like be real and and I don't also think that that's the most effective thing.
Totally.
Like, so
Yeah.
when you do get those students or people in life in general who are in this fantasy world, in a conversational approach, what's the best way to still be an advocate for who they're called to be and to lean into that, and also I don't know that's
well, usually the fantasy comes with the doing conversation, you know, like I'm going to be the next NBA superstar, I'm going to be the next like world speaker, I'm going to be the next multimillionaire who has passive income, whatever it may be, right? And so I think getting to the longing underneath the doing, like, hey, let's just say you were a superstar athlete. Let's just say that you were the next, you know, multimillionaire. Let's just say that you were the next, you know, mega speaker on stage. What's the longing beneath that would provide for you?
That's so good.
Oh man, that would create freedom for me, or man, I would be seen, or I would be loved, whatever it may be. And so I think getting to that, like, okay, so your actual heart longing is to be known, or it's to be free, or it's to have trust with the people around you. Let's talk about that.
Okay.
You know, can we let's table this, like what we're going to do, because that's absolutely doable.
Wow.
If that makes sense.
Wow, that makes total sense. And then there's probably a whole like plan of action you could create based on the longing of like, man, if you were to live that out today, what would, so that's great. Youth workers listening, we're wrapping our time here. What do you want youth workers to get today? Like if you just could, like, you know, snap your finger, wave a magic wand, and every youth worker in America understood this. What is that?
Yeah, I think, like I said earlier, I think young people are desperate for identity, and I know that's a buzzword that's been in the youth ministry world forever, you know. But I think what doesn't produce that is talking to students more about who they should be. Every kid in youth group can parrot back your sermon about I need to be pure, and I need to be noble, and I need to not hang out with bad people, and I need to not smoke weed, and I need, you know, all the things that they know, shouldn't look at porn, all the things, you know, they could repeat all of it back. And so I think that as youth pastors, as leaders, the temptation is I just need to say it louder. I need to say it more. I need to say it in a different way, right? Over there. And I think what students are not looking for is to have someone talk at them. They're looking to have someone talk to them and to have someone see them, and not just tell them who they need to be, but again, to pull out of them what God is already doing and what God is already working in them, and that the resource is already there for them to have that happen, but that as a youth pastor, all the resources there for you to support them in that. Right? So it's not like, man, I hope this happens. It's like, I have everything I need to have this conversation turn out with this student, to have this reality happen. So do I have the courage to access that resource, to step into those painful places, and to be with them in a way that will draw that out of them, rather than just spew more truth at them. Obviously, we need truth. It's super important. I'm not saying you don't give them biblical wisdom. I'm not saying cut out your teachings. But what I am saying is that what they need, they probably don't need more of that. Keep doing that. What they need is someone who says, like, I see you, and I love you enough to have this difficult conversation. Wow,
what a powerful idea. We've said this a little bit here, that we're like professional gold diggers. And I think that happens through the power of conversations. And being able to listen, having the character enough to have the difficult conversation, to lean into the conversations we're afraid of, but also to get really clear on what it is they're up to on their level and their end, so we can champion that. Great. Well, Nathan, where can people find you at? How can they look you up? And talk about the trainings, all of it.
Absolutely. I have the privilege of working with Gap Community. You can find us at gapcommunity.com. We do 2, 3, 4 day life transformation trainings literally all over the globe, lots in the US here. So if you're interested in taking your life to the next level, hop online, find the next training closest to you. I know you and your team have experienced the power of it.
Almost all of us now.
Yeah. I know it's hard to articulate this, and you'll know what I'm talking about, but there's nothing like it on the planet. I guarantee this is not like another 5-step workshop. You will come in with your vision and you will walk away clear on who you are and what you're committed to have with that. So gapcommunity.com, check that out. I have my website, nathanneighbor.com. So both of those are resources there.
It's great.
Yeah.
I was just add this to there's nothing like it, that the last training I was a part of, there was like maybe 42 people in there. And I've gone to conferences and been in workshops with 42 people where half the room gets it, half the room doesn't.
Totally, yep.
Out of the 42 people, I think it was 43 people actually. I think out of the 43 people, 42 of them left drastically transformed.
Yeah, radically transformed.
And that percentage doesn't happen in your everyday conference.
Yeah.
And there's great ones out there. And
totally.
I believe a touch from God can do a lot. And there's also these powerful conversations we can have that'll also do that. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks so much for your time today. Thanks for just being a champion of RAG.
I love RAG.
We love and appreciate you a lot. And I look forward to doing this again.
It'd be good.
Great. Yeah.
Thanks, man.
For those of you that are watching, please, if you enjoyed this conversation, like, subscribe, share. Go follow Nathan and Gap Community and Humanity Church. And we're grateful for them. And thank you for being a part of the Rescue World community. We will see y'all soon.